honestly, I think everything is cyclical. Okay, it's a cycle. Be it fashion, wearing bell bottoms, or doing skateboard or drinking vermouth or whatever. I think everything is a cycle. So how long that cycle is from each other, that's another story. I think the NFT bear market at the moment, or one level, you'd say it's a bear market only because it's not so prominent, and a lot of some of the big collections are kind of going down, like Bored Ape. But actually, that's also because all the attention is going to altcoins, right? It's going to Bitcoin, it's going to the ETFs. So it's got all that hype and all that. It's usually that was already originally it was always like that. When Bitcoin would go up, NFTs would go down. When Bitcoin went down, NFTs. I mean, there was always this, kind of to and fro.
Hi everyone. Today we have an esteemed guest. Robert, can you introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Robert, and I am probably multidisciplinary, but right now focusing a lot on NFTs and, of course, the Web3 metaverse, and, of course, as everybody, is AI as well.
Perfect. So what actually got you into the NFT space?
Good question. So my background is actually art. So I've always been in art and working with artists. And I think when the NFT kind of boom came out, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, it was so revolutionary in the sense that artists can actually then keep, say, generating revenue forever, technically speaking, on their work, which I think was so special at the time, which is what really made OpenSea massive, and of course NFTs, and that's what really got me. So that's why that's what kind of attracted me in the first place with NFTs as an artist
Have
myself.
you been interested in crypto before or just only NFTs?
A very good question. Definitely was interested in crypto first, and I think that was a very good, I would say, leeway. Although some can be completely polar opposites, but for me, I think I bought my first Bitcoin in 2016, 17. Really got in there and tried to understand. Of course, not as much as I would have loved to be, as everyone probably says when they look back in retrospect, but definitely was understanding it, kind of in there. Had the first FOMO and all that kind of stuff, and aped into some coins. But then when NFTs came out, it really, to me, was a supplementary, say, extension of understanding crypto or Web3.
You mentioned that you are into art. I suppose also like maybe into digital art or at least like have familiar with the space. How do you see NFTs fundamentally different from art, like the digital art, normal digital art?
That's an interesting question, and I think it could be split up into two ways. In one way, I could answer there is no difference. I think this is on the other side of the coin. I think NFTs, in a way, are their own art form or genre, which it is. And so there is no difference like seeing a picture on a wall. Obviously, the fundamental differences you've just kind of asked is obviously one is digital, and not only digital, it's on chain, right? So the ability to let's say in one way own that specific thing on chain, and again, it's depending on which collection you're into or what kind of art or NFT you're buying. Of course, there's different ways of kind of understanding that, but in essence, it's on chain, it's digital, and you own that, say, limited edition of that work online on chain.
Right now, like maybe a lot of people hear about NFTs and even some of them own it through maybe websites like OpenSea and whatnot, but maybe not enough applications to display NFTs, or like at least not in a convention sense. Like for example, let's say you cannot as easily display NFTs on your Instagram, for example, like in an authenticated manner. So do you think that there is like some ways to go in this direction, or do you think that NFTs will have their own thing? Like, are they going to merge with Web2 in some form, like especially with the social networks, or do you see the trend going in some different direction?
Okay, good question. And again, I can answer that in two ways. I think the first part is look, there are already galleries, like physical galleries, that are showing and displaying NFTs in digital form. Okay, so and that's been going on for a couple of years now, I would say. So in that respect, people can actually go to this exhibition in physical form, look at the NFT, and if they wanted to buy it, they can just scan it, just like any other art exhibition there is. The other side of the coin, there are websites like Anasaia or Spatial, or these kind of metaverse platforms that allow you to display your NFTs. And I think, or another one's called On Cyber, actually. So they actually allow you to display the NFTs you hold via your wallet. Okay, so it's a little bit more Web3. There are Web2 versions of that where you have to kind of download, but some, as soon as you log in with your wallet, it shows all those NFTs, and you can even kind of tailor make it to what kind of setting. Do you want white walls? Do you want a graffiti wall? That kind of stuff. So to answer your question, I think it is moving forward and becoming more and more, let's say, finding new ways to display the NFTs that you own. It's not necessarily just on like what it was with Twitter, where you can, connect your wallet.
I
So
was
yeah.
just going to ask you about Twitter. So you see other social media networks doing something similar to what Twitter did with the profile photo for the NFTs?
Well, now they've even taken it off. So Twitter's like taking that function off. I think eventually there will be more of these things, but I think in another way you could even think eventually it's just going to be all the same. Everything will become Web3, meaning whatever photo you had, or Web3 address or this kind of stuff, it's going to be so integrated. It even happens now. Like you can buy a ticket, an NFT ticket, just by using your email address. You don't even know it's an NFT, right? You will receive the QR code. You think it's just a QR code, but actually it's an NFT. So I think in the future, all of this will be integrated like the internet. You don't even know if you're using, a specific,
I see. So
internet.
in a way, it's like, for example, a lot of images now online are basically hosted in AWS. So maybe in the future, all of the images are going to be hosted basically on chain or some form of decentralized storage.
Exactly, and that's exactly correct. So I think that's the future, honestly. I mean, there'll always be a mix, and you'll always have the Web 2, but I think more and more it might become decentralized.
I get it. So, but then we'll go to something related slightly, which is fees. Like obviously, we all know like Ethereum, for example, which is the pioneering for the in NFT frontier, but they
Yep.
have notorious for their high fees. So, do you see any other chain overtaking Ethereum in terms of NFTs or adoption, like for all these services?
Well, definitely Solana is probably right behind Ethereum currently, particularly now with all the meme tokens and all the pumping with that. But for sure, from NFT perspective, Solana is. But of course, as we know, and just recently, Solana has their own problems too to deal with in terms of the excessive usage and its blackouts. So besides that, I think there are chains out there that are kind of focusing particularly on gaming and NFTs, like Immutable. You've got Near Protocol. I mean, there's obviously 1,000 million chains out there, but I would say Solana is next up the line. And even, I mean, I think Cardano has a great structure, like a great infrastructure, should I say, and community. Although it hasn't been heavily adopted into the NFT world, I think they've got the foundation there to be strong in that world if they choose to
Yeah, I
decide
think
to.
I think the only thing that's holding Cardano back, in my personal opinion, is might be the speed of transactions is very slow compared to other chains. Like
Yep.
obviously, for the first confirmation is very fast, but to actually get some decent confirmations, it usually takes like 5 minutes or so. So
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
maybe,
true. Well, I guess every chain has
I mean,
their
like
way to.
compared to Solana, I think Solana has the speed going for it, and obviously the fees as well.
That's true. Yep.
So right now for the you mentioned like for the tickets, is
Yep.
there any like what do you see this as the main utility that's moving forward going to be for NFTs, other obviously the art aspect, or do you see other utility or form of usage for NFTs?
Yeah, I think look, I think ticketing is just one. Honestly, I think NFTs can be in almost every part of the the our world, and in terms of our day-to-day life. It could be again just even purchasing something physical or online and then using it in a physical application. So I do think I think NFT ticketing is just one way, and that kind of one of the key reasons why they do that is to stop counterfeiting, right? Before you could print out counterfeits. So with it being on chain and on a particular chain, there's no way you can counterfeit that. Of course, there's still, I think, a long way for a full adoption, globally, but definitely, I think that's one of the best use cases that has immediate effect, particularly for a producer in terms of trying to the security for their ticketing.
How about, for example, for the generation, art generation itself for NFTs? Like obviously we have all seen like within, especially within this last year, the adoption, at least maybe even not artists, even people who were not as good of an artist before, they were adopting basically AI art. And also the
Yep.
artists themselves are using AI in some form, like even during the process, maybe some for concepts or ideation
Yes.
stage. So, and it's obviously seeping into the NFT space. So, would you say like how much of the NFT space right now is based on AI art?
That's an excellent question, Prince. And I think honestly, it's an inevitability. And I'm all for it. I think it just becomes another genre, another tool. Remember, AI art or AI is just a tool still at this point. It's not like we have AI machines creating art just from their own kind of self-awareness, right? So it still requires the human, such as ourselves, to prompt in, to modify, to adjust, and to tailor it to what we want to see. So I think it's becoming its own genre in terms of the art world. And I think that's exciting. And we can't change it. It's not going to go backwards anymore. It's only going to go forward. So I accept it. I'm all for it. And we just have to acknowledge that, like we had before, painting, oil, canvas, photography, pencil. I mean, all of these things. Now we have AI art. That's it. And the different forms within that, different genres within AI art, I think will manifest slowly, which is great to be part of this revolution or evolution.
Do you see any effort for the platforms host the NFTs to differentiate in the categorization between AI art and actual human art?
I think they should. I think definitely. Look, I was in that transition. I was buying stuff, and it was probably AI generated, but I thought it was really cool digital. But at the end of the day, if I really like that artwork, well, I like the artwork, and it shouldn't really matter. Of course, it's always the intention behind things, right? It's like if I'm selling you a fake Mona Lisa, well, if you really like the Mona Lisa for its own, you'll buy it. But if it was my intent to maliciously deceive you, saying it's real, then that's a different story. So I do think that, I mean, personally, I write articles on Medium, and I'll state there, I'll say written by ChatGPT, updated and reviewed by Robert Vicencio. So I have no issue, and if I'm still able to read that and it provides content, then so be it. But as long as it's stated, I think, and it's disclosed, I think there should be no issue. And then it's up to you, the viewer or watcher or buyer, to make that decision.
Perfect. But is it okay if I ask like another question like related to the
Sure,
ethics, like
please.
about
Yeah.
so basically you mentioned that from the user perspective or the consumer, let's say, of this art, we don't maybe appreciate it for its own sake, but what happens is that maybe some original artist whom this art is somehow based on, because AI is basically based on some references that they collected or scraped from
Hmm.
the internet. So you think that maybe
This episode is sponsored by DegreeSign.
CoinExams platform was purpose-built by DegreeSign to be one of the best-performing platforms in the crypto space.
DegreeSign is an agency developing web products with a long experience of building products from scratch for maximum performance and stability.
Start today. Just email make@degreesign.com.
as users, do we have like any obligation towards those artists who might have like a similar style from which the AI has like got some ideas?
Wow, that's okay. That's a loaded question, and I do understand. I know where it's coming from, and I do understand what you're saying. All I can say is this: is I think then it's to the platform that's creating this work, that needs to be able to, facilitate. Look, as a user, hey, I'm just using the art. I've prompted it, I've given it, I've modified it. You're providing me this ability to do it. Now, I understand. Is it looking like a specific, like Picasso or a Renoir or like a Marvel character? All of those things. Again, I think art can be so subjective, and I don't think it's also for them. Like, if it so kind of looks like, say, a stormtrooper, but it's not a stormtrooper, well, it's not a stormtrooper. I think you can't. I don't know how far the IP holder has, or the people who created it has the right to blanketly just say this is all my style. You know what I mean? So I think it's going to be a combination, and I don't think it's going to go away soon. This discussion probably will still be going. I'm on both sides of the table, meaning I am an artist and I create my own IP. On the other side, I do use AI as well. So there has to be. I think it's going to come to a collective understanding, and I think that's how anything of these things could be resolved in the future.
I mean, in a way, like you're correct in terms of like also like getting the ideas. Like, let's say I'm a digital artist not using AI, but I
Yep.
still get my ideas from somewhere, right? Like if we dig that
Yep.
deep down, it's like I got this style from somewhere or like curated this. So the only thing maybe that some people are pointing to, maybe that's the automation of it. Like it's much easier for people to basically collect or summarize these ideas. But yeah,
Yep.
I think at the end of the day, as you mentioned, it's a tool. So yeah,
Yep.
maybe we can improve how it's references. Like now you can see a lot of chat texts. They will provide you with a citation. Previously, this was not there. So maybe
Yes.
in the future also images will be like reference?
Well, to be absolutely honest, and if we're even going to go like that, I would even say some of the famous cartoons or animation, you ask where they got their inspiration from. I mean, it's not like they're the ones that they originated this, right? Even Star Wars, there's a lot of kind of references to other things. So everybody copies everybody. It's like music, right? So even the Beatles, they were inspired by 4 chords that other musicians have used. They just packaged it differently. So I don't think, if we really wanted to go deep into it, I don't think everyone's guilty of copying or being inspired by. No, sure. So I was just saying everyone gets inspired by something, right? So if we dig really deep into I said everyone is guilty of being inspired by something else, be it in music or art. So I don't think anybody can say it's all theirs and it's my original. So I think that's AI. It's also just using what it sees or what it's being fed. So, and it's then from that manifesting something new. So I think it's an ongoing discussion, and I think it's going to be a collective resolution.
How about for the NFT? Like if we go back to the pricing and like how the artist
Yep.
benefits from the NFTs. Like obviously there was, like as you mentioned, like there's like this craze or like this hype for the NFTs for a couple of years ago. It was like almost everything in the space. But right now it's a bit, let's say, of a bear market for NFTs. Do you see like this hype reviving in terms of utility, like as you mentioned, the tickets and whatnot, or do you see this attention increasing again, but like regarding the art itself, like do you see this attention like changing or this trend towards NFTs?
Yeah. Honestly, I think everything is cyclical. Okay, it's a cycle. Be it fashion, wearing bell bottoms, or doing skateboard or drinking vermouth or whatever. I think everything is a cycle. So how long that cycle is from each other, that's another story. But to answer your question, I think the NFT bear market at the moment, in one level, you'd say it's a bear market only because it's not so prominent, and a lot of some of the big collections are kind of going down, like Bored Ape. But actually, that's also because all the attention is going to altcoins, right? It's going to Bitcoin, it's going to the ETFs. So it's got all that hype and all that. It's usually that was originally it was always like that. When Bitcoin would go up, NFTs would go down. When Bitcoin went down, NFTs. I mean, there was always this, kind of to and fro.
Yeah, it seems
However,
like Bitcoin, altcoins, and then NFTs in the cycle.
right. Exactly. So I think it's just a matter of cycle. Now, having said that, though, if you look really deep into the community, if you're getting into the NFTs, it might be harder on the macro, or you think it's a bear market, but one-to-one, people are buying and selling. I mean, things are going. I mean, maybe even more from the one-to-one or the real artists. I'm in there with some of the community, and people are buying and selling. There is trading going on. It's not like everything is stopped. It is still alive. So I think it's just a matter of time, again, when things go up and things go down, just like the metaverse.
Can you elaborate on the micro look into the NFT space? Like, for example, are the people buying and selling just like as a speculative asset, or are there like small collectors who are just trying to curate a few images that they like?
Well, that's okay. So I'll talk about myself only because, that's probably the best example. So last week I just bought, again, this is still an NFT, a .pudgy on Unstoppable Domains, right? So it's a Web3 domain name. I bought 2 of them. So I probably can't afford a pudgy penguin. So I went to the next best thing, which was a .pudgy name, right? So I went online, bought that, boom. 3 weeks ago from that, there was an artist online I was just following. She said, "Oh, I've got one-to-one, blah, blah, blah." I went in, checked it out. She was, I kind of tried to communicate with the artist, and then boom, I bought her, her thing. So I do invest in art, and I'm one of those collectors that, of course, not one of the big whales, but definitely I'm out there seeing, and if I can talk to the artist, I see what they're doing, and it all works, and tick, 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 boom, I'll buy your NFT. So it is still there, and I'm not the only one too, of course. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of people out there. Part speculative. For me, as a buyer or an investor in NFT arts, I really do look at the artist and the artwork. I need to love the artwork and, of course, the artist. Then I'll purchase it.
But let's say, like, for example, you bought the art. Do you have like an exit strategy for the art, or do you keep it like?
Okay, that's a good question. A quick answer: no exit strategy. So I think in one way, because I love the art, I'm happy to keep it. So of course, if I went really more speculative, oh, there was one speculative one I bought, which was somebody said, you know, when the eclipse happened in the
Yeah.
States, right? There was a very famous artist that did something, and it was a free mint, but I bought it at, yeah, that was speculative. I went in and I just bought I just minted or bought it from somebody. I should check, and I'd love to check it now. I bought it at 0.0004 ETH or something, you know, but it was a very big project. There were and a lot of big names behind it and backing it. And I bought that speculatively just because someone whispered in my ear and said, "Hey, you should buy this." I said, "Oh, okay, let me check it out." Boom. You know, so again, I think I'm a bit of a mixed bag, meaning I'm not just purely speculative. I'm not just purely because I love the art. I'm kind of open in that sense.
I think that this was happening, but on a much, let's say, distributed phase. Like, for example, for like I love art myself, and for
Yep.
example, I would pay on DeviantArt or some other websites. You can pay the artist just like if you like their image, you want to use it as a wallpaper or something. But right now, it's more like on chain, so the artists have like real way of being compensated, and a lot of artists maybe they will have like a percentage if you resell the art. So
Yes.
it's like a
Yes.
viable way maybe to make income, especially for the larger artists.
It's actually it's people are making a living out of it. You know, it's how people survive and live, and that's what I appreciate, and that's what I'm trying to support as well. You know, I do have that in mind. So, but you're right. I mean, but this is the big debate before, right? With OpenSea and Blur, some of these sites saying no to royalty, which was really bad. I mean, it caused a lot of debate and issues because that's how some of these people really live. You know, so I think well, anyway, that's, yeah, so royalty is important, and I support those platforms that support royalty.
There was also like a push for brands like the NBA and some other Disney, I think,
Yep.
to adopt NFTs in some form of utility or like cards or whatnot. Do you see this like continuing, or like is there any big brands on the horizon pushing
Yep.
this?
Well, yeah, I just actually signed up to Disney Pinnacle, which is they're doing these little pins, NFTs, again as a collector. I think any big brand, you know, has to look at any ways to generate revenue, right? So it's stupid not to. I think it'd be almost incompetent to say, "Oh, I won't look at that," particularly if it's the new market. Now, how much you get into it, how much you diversify, or how much you know create, that's another story. But I think every brand, at least one point, they all had their metaverse strategies, right? Now it's the AI strategy. All brands are looking into AI and how do I integrate AI. But it's going to be like this. It's a combo. Whatever's new as a brand, or else you're going to get left behind. It's as simple as that. Like Kodak, you know, they didn't believe in digital cameras. Bye bye Kodak.
But how would you answer to maybe some brands or some people who are a bit cynical and they would tell you that, yeah, there are these digital technologies that takes off, like for example, what happened with Kodak and the digital photography took off, but maybe some other technology doesn't. So who to say like should we spend effort into developing our NFT strategy and then it doesn't pan out? Like for example, we saw it always the VR. So the VR, there was a lot of high hopes. Obviously, now there is like still on the horizon because Apple Vision Pro and all this, but
Yep.
maybe not as much. So do you think that NFTs maybe it will fade away or it will grow back?
I honestly think that, well, I don't think NFTs are going anywhere. And I think for those brands who say that, who are cynical, I think they have the right to be cynical. I think that's not a problem. But I think they also have to look at, again, what's trending and what are the young people. It's like a brand saying, I don't want to use TikTok. Well, okay, don't use TikTok. Just put it on print media or some posters around the city. You're just not gonna, it's going to be your own demise, and you're not targeting or not getting into the social norm as it's become, right? So I think every brand, again, there are a lot of traditional brands. I obviously, for me, well, you have the right to choose whatever way, but you want to get in there, you want to understand the Gen Z and the younger people, well, you have to kind of switch your brain, you know. So yeah, I think you got to have an open mind in this world, and it goes fast, right? You all know Web3 crypto, it's a fast game, sometimes a bit too fast and a bit too overwhelming, but there at least has to be some kind of strategy.
Perfect. Thank you for the overall view and the perspective deep dive into all things NFT. So where do people can reach you?
Sure. Well, look, you can obviously reach me on my Twitter, which is at Robert Vicencio. I can put the link below, and you'll see the projects. We'll update on the different projects we have. going on there, and or Big Ones NFT, of course, which is our YouTube channel, which again I'll give you the
So
links.
is there any project you want to shout out? Is Big One NFT, is it a project itself or?
Okay, Big Ones NFT is just our channel, and we've been working on that for about a year, and it's for us it's just fun, and it's good to kind of understand and get in there. And of course, a shout out to my partner in Big Ones NFT, Brendan Lowe, who's based in Sydney. But yeah, in terms of the project, we do want to shout out. It's coming out. It's going to be a new NFT PFP collection, and it's going to be related to skateboarding. And we're really going to bring in some amazing utility to this project. And it's exciting. And if anything, we're creating a new, say, protocol called RWP, Real World Person. So this skateboarding NFT project will actually go to help actual real people, real skaters, and sponsor them to try to help them reach the Olympic dream in 2028 in LA. So that's the general thing.
Amazing.
So we'll be announcing more on that too.
Perfect. So will you be announcing this on the Twitter or YouTube channel?
I'll be announcing it predominantly first on my Twitter, on my personal Twitter at Robert Vicencio.
We'll share all these things below. And thank
you very much.
For your time today.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Bye bye.